Well, very tame and seemingly mature response
Indeed.
From Lai Mohammed there, of course, representing the government. Well, we have a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Fred Nzako, now joining us to discuss this, open letter from former President Olusegun Obasanjo to President Buhari. Good morning, and it's good to have you on the show.
Good to have you. Good morning.
Well, while you were listening to that response from Mr. Lai Mohammed, you were just giggling away, and I wonder why. Is it the letter from OBJ that you find amusing, or that response from...
The response is as interesting as the letter itself. And, well, chosen, carefully selected words used in that response, and the same way that the former president carefully selected his words in writing that letter, which I simply can describe as a letter from all Nigerians. By World Bank estimate, we are about 193.4 million people in Nigeria, and then OBJ wrote a letter for about 180 million people. If we had opportunity to append our signatures and our thumbprints on that letter around the country, at least 180 million signatures of thumbprints will be on that letter.
We're out of the 180 signatures that you're talking about, people you're talking about. Some have come out to say that Obasanjo isn't even in the best position to be the one to criticize the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari because he allegedly sought a third term.
The issue of third term ambition of President Obasanjo does not in any way obliterate the truth in that letter. We have chastised him for thinking like that. He may have thought that he had a little more to offer Nigeria that propelled him to seek a third term, but that was a way out of our constitutional provision, and then the ambition fell flat. Ever since then, Chief Obasanjo has always been a good statesman. Yes, you like him, you hate him, but he is giving the punches when they deserve to be given. And I tell you...
And those punches, most of the time, end up being very deadly punches.
Knockout punches.
It's actually the second time Obasanjo will be writing a letter to Mr. President Buhari. The first time when he was military head of state, when he, of course, aligned his government, that is Buhari, Idiagbon government, with that of Muritala Obasanjo, and Obasanjo publicly, disowned. Publicly
disowned, because sometime in 1984-85, when one Mr. Peter Onu was to become the next Secretary General of OAU, President Head of State Muhammadu Buhari then made Nigeria to vote against a Nigerian becoming the head of OAU, even when he was the most qualified person to be, and he instead voted for a Nigerian who is a Fulani man. And that is why Chief Obasanjo identified part of the problems of this government as clannishness, nepotism, sectionalism, tribalism, all rolled in one. Because when you are a leader of a nation, you must know of a country. You must know that a country of various nationalities, you are like a father in a family who should not play the politics of favoritism as a family policy, as a parental or paternal policy. And then what we are seeing is that there is a politics of favoritism being played by the father of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, and that is why that punch must definitely be the punch of all Nigerians.
And interestingly, we didn't see or hear Lai Mohammed address that issue.
Because it is as glaring. We call it res ipsa loquitur in law. The action speaks for themselves. It is so glaring. What is it going to defend? There's nothing to defend. Look at the most recent appointment of the NIA Director General, that if there's a hue and cry across the whole federation that such appointment should not be, there are so many other people who are better qualified, who are in the system, but because of clannish consideration and emotion, Mr. President bypassed all of them and appointed somebody who they say had failed exams 2 occasions. And then the same person is from the same state with the president, and from the same state with the director of SSS, director general of SSS, and from the same state with some other head of a government agency in the security arm of government.
But you would recall that last year, when this debate about nepotism, was way up there, this government came out with a list showing Nigerians that, look, the perception out there is not necessarily what it is, that there is a good spread when it comes to appointments. And of course, the latest appointments that came much later, reflected more of the
government gave us
all of that.
The government gave us half truth. What government did was that a man who is appointed director of SSS, another man is appointed the head of human resources in an organization or a board member, and you want to balance and equate both of them. That's not the truth. For the first time in Nigerian history since 1900, this is the most nepotic government we have ever seen. And then everybody who understands that there are over 300 tribal nationalities that form Nigeria, that this person should know that such sentiment should always be considered. And that is why even the principle and concept of federal character was even enshrined in the Constitution.
All right, but can we shy away from some of the achievements of the administration so far? And if you check the front pages of most of the national dailies today, they highlighted some of them. Foreign reserves is $40 billion now, up from $24 billion. Yeah, inflation down for 11 months. So many strides, really, recorded, especially on the part of the economy. Since,
doing very well in agriculture,
beautiful. Beautiful. You have come to my second terrain of development economics. Of economics. I tell you, if you say foreign reserve has moved up to 40 billion, what is foreign debt? I mean, if foreign reserve has moved to 40 billion, foreign debt has also jumped up to so much.
And the amount you are even spending to service debt.
To service the debt. The domestic debt as well has gone up so much. If you say inflation has not gone up in agriculture, what of inflation in energy? If you say the government has started a school feeding program, what of the number of people that are losing jobs by the droves?
What about Empower?
How many people are empowered? That's the question. How many people are empowered? How many firms have been revived? How many firms have been revived? How many firms have left Nigerian soil? How many industries have closed up shops? So, meanwhile, the population keeps increasing. When you talk about infrastructure, what is on ground? Just tell me, what is on ground in infrastructure? The only major thing that this government has commissioned is the rail project. And that rail project, 95% of that was completed by the previous administration.
Yeah, but government is saying, look,
so what else? If you come to agriculture,
this government has invested more in infrastructure than any other government in the history of this country.
Where are the results?
That's what they're saying.
Just like
if you travel from Lagos to Ibadan, you'd see, though, yes, that project is somehow having some challenges from the assembly getting funds. But then road construction on some of the federal roads across the country, rail projects as well, will spring up.
Abandoned since the OBJ government.
Anytime they mention road construction across the country, they talk about Lagos Ibadan. Is that the only federal road in Nigeria? No. Where is Second Niger Bridge? I just came back from the east, and I intentionally went by road. Second Niger Bridge, there is no single tractor there. There's no single tipper dropping sand. Second Niger Bridge, the project is stalled. Enugu Port Harcourt Express, there's nothing going on there. Enugu Onitsha Express Road, there's nothing going on there. So why do you when you talk about federal road, you just talk about Lagos Ibadan? Yes, it is the main arterial road in the country because of the position of Lagos in Nigerian economy. But by the time you pass through Lagos Ibadan Express, does it end there?
Okay.
It doesn't end there.
I want to quickly make a point. Would you really blame this administration completely? Because the same former President Olusegun Obasanjo that wrote this open letter to President Buhari during his administration approved the commencement of East-West Roads road infrastructure. Was when he left office that it was discovered that no funds were even separated for that.
That was why we voted out President Jonathan, because he didn't do anything on the East-West Road. No, we voted up President Jonathan because the Niger Delta was not well taken care of. Some individuals, especially the strong heads in Niger Delta, were taken care of. It was a kind of individual settlement. The people, the real people and the environment of Niger Delta didn't get the feel of the governance of President Jonathan, and he was voted out. We cannot say because Jonathan didn't do it, then Buhari will not do it.
The question is, did Obasanjo do it in his 8-year
Obasanjo,
tenure?
if you look, it will be uncharitable, very, very uncharitable, to forget all the things that Obasanjo did in his government. At least there was unity. At the point Obasanjo came in, Nigeria was a pariah state. Obasanjo spent virtually the first term running around the world trying to bring back Nigeria into the international community. And he did that successfully. Government is a continuum. We expected that the rest of the government would take off from where he stopped. Okay, and everybody felt a sense of not only security.
We'll continue the discussion after a moment. We need to join Fadishola Shoti in 1 hour for the news updates. It's quite interesting. Stay with us. Over to you now. We're trying to discuss behind the scenes.
Yeah, trying to, you know, adapt the...
Yeah.
Okay, we're still discussing Obasanjo's letter to President Buhari, and of course, reactions have been trailing that particular letter. We have a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Fred Nzako, who's been looking at this with us this morning. Okay, so we're trying to, you know, pick out the fact that some Nigerians are saying former President Olusegun Obasanjo does not have the moral high ground to write that letter to President Buhari, because if you assess his 8-year, you know, tenure, he didn't do that much. $16 billion spent on electricity, and Nigerians are still paying for darkness.
We have
and so many other issues that you could raise around.
We have very strongly
presidency.
We have very strongly criticized President Obasanjo for not doing enough, but that does not mean that what President Obasanjo has said in his letter is not a reflection of the true position of affairs.
But are we not too much in a hurry? Let me just butt in very quickly. Do we really, in all honesty, expect that this government would, you know, would or could right all the wrongs that they met when they came on board? 2015. This is early 2018.
If Nigeria,
less than 3 years.
If Nigeria has been standing still from where President Buhari met Nigeria in 2015, Nigeria will be better off today than what we are now. There is so much insecurity, there is so much division, there is so much sectionalism in Nigeria.
But
Nigeria has never been this divided.
What about his anti-corruption
And then what has caused it? When you talk about anti-corruption fight, where has it taken us to? Is it to go and rout judges from their sleep? That is anti-corruption fight? Where is Mena? Just because of President
Babachir
has just been arrested because President Obasanjo wrote. We hope that letter will lead to further arrest and diligent prosecution. Who has been diligently prosecuted since then? And even that's why Senator Sheikh said that when it concerns the president's men, he will treat them with perfume. Not even not even deodorant, with perfume. Now it's perfume. It used to be deodorant. Now with perfume. But when it concerns some other people, then he will now use insecticide. It is simply because of that favoritism being played by Mr. President. And it is intentional.
But then during the administration of Olusegun Obasanjo, he was accused of using the EFCC as well to witch hunt perceived opponents.
He was accused of using the EFCC to hound his opponents. There was that accusation. But any of the people, or especially the governors that EFCC hounded, has any of them been proven not to have put their hands in the cookie jar? And that was why even former Senator Aliu said that even in the hallowed chambers of National Assembly, that there were so many thieves. And he wanted to name them. Then President David Mark stopped him. That tells you that at least there was something going on.
Okay, what about the Ogoni cleanup?
The Ogoni cleanup, yes. The government of Obasanjo didn't do anything in Ogoni cleanup. Instead, he even annihilated many people in Odi. We cannot run away from those facts. And then in Zakibia. But has this government started the cleanup? And that is why the major challenge and problem I have with this government...
But it made the announcement.
...is deceit and lies. Government should not be all about deceit and lies. Yes, there was an announcement, but what is going on? Just recently, Ogoni people met and said, look, there's so much deceit. We've been waiting, and nothing is going on. Absolutely nothing is going on. Even the international experts and environmentalists that came said nothing is going on. So why the deceit? If you know you can't do it, don't tell me you want to do it.
Power generation has increased?
That power generation has not increased anywhere.
All-time high, according to...
It has not increased anywhere.
7,000 megawatts.
For the first time, we had 0 megawatts in Nigeria. For the first time, the grid collapsed, that it went to 0. Let me tell you one thing. I think the major problem that our president has is having his sycophants give him this air of a messiah. And that is why he doesn't listen. I'm coming. And that's why he doesn't listen to anybody. We have said, Nigerians have said, many people have said, unbundle this ministry that is big three in one. Power, works, and housing. Has he unbundled it? Interact with the people in those ministries and they will tell you that no matter how much former Governor Fashola tries, he can never achieve his own intention. And because people don't speak truth to power, I've had the opportunity to ask one former minister, when you meet in federal cabinet, what do you even discuss? Because I know that in governance and public administration, you don't criticize the government that you serve publicly, but you can criticize internally when you are in a meeting, especially in an executive meeting. Do you people ever have the opportunity and the guts to tell Mr. President or whoever that is in charge of the country that, Oga, this thing is not going well? The man of power has told me, unless you want to leave the government and leave the country.
I was listening to Professor Obaje, a former chaplain of Aso Rock, who said the unfortunate or the tragic thing about this government is that President Buhari does not have the men who can take the initiative to you know, maybe respond to a Benue killings, for example, without necessarily having to recourse to Mr. President. Okay, but look, the point is, Mr. Lai Mohammed has responded point for point, saying so far we have done very, very well. But we do appreciate the fact that OBJ took time out of his very busy schedule. And as a matter of fact, maybe that's why he does not appreciate the progress that's been made so far under this administration.
A former president.
But would it be extreme for President Olusegun Obasanjo to say that Buhari should not run for a second term?
A former President Obasanjo has been very busy that he cannot see what achievements this government has made. Are the rest of Nigerians too busy too to notice such achievements? If former President Obasanjo does not have shortage of light because of his power, influence, and capacity, the rest of Nigerians who don't have energy, are they too busy to also notice that? Are they too busy to notice that there are fuel queues in Nigeria when the pump price of petrol has been increased and when we have been told that there's no single subsidy in energy? Is the former President Obasanjo busy and Nigerians too busy to know that there are strikes all over the place and the people are not being paid and the Nigerians are jumping into the lagoon for the first time? A set of people who love life will now be so desperate and so hopeless that they want to take their lives on account of the hopelessness of the economy? Is he so busy that he cannot see all this? The problem is that it is even the president himself that is not being told the truth
so
by the people who surround him. That is the problem. And the greatest undoing of any leader is surrounding himself with sycophants who don't have the love for the country and who don't tell him the truth. Anybody who tells President Buhari the truth will tell him, one, economy is not doing well. If you tell me we have exited the recession, that is in the mouth of the governor of Central Bank and the Minister of Finance, in the mouth of the market women and men all over the country, we are still neck deep in recession.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange is one of the most straight there in 2017. In fact, one of the top 3, top 5.
In 2018, so far.
So even to wrap
there
up,
is a new revival in the world. There is a new revival in the stock exchange, right? Just recently. And then even that new revival, it didn't take up to 1 week and it nosedived again. They said because people are taking out their profit from the stock. Because a lot of people are waiting. Just let there be a marginal increment and they will offload. By the time they started offloading, down came a slump again in the industry.
We can never get enough time to discuss this. Thank you very much for your analysis. Fred Nzako, you're a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming.
Many thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll be going to the world of sports when we come back from this short breather. Stay with us.